Jey Uso is broken, completely shattered. And if you think this is just another wrestling headline, think again, because this is the type of news that stops the wrestling world dead in its tracks. Jey isn't just grieving a brother in the ring. No. Jey Uso is grieving his twin, his day one, the man who stood beside him since birth, Jimmy Uso, after Jimmy's shocking, heartbreaking passing in a tragic car accident. The Usos weren't just a tag team. They weren't just two brothers with a shared dream. They were blood. They were soulmates in life and in wrestling, and now Jey is forced to wake up every single morning knowing his other half will never stand beside him again. Fans across the world are angry. They're devastated. They're questioning how something so cruel could happen. This wasn't supposed to be Jimmy's story. This wasn't supposed to be how the Usos' legendary journey came to an end. WWE superstars are in disbelief, the locker room is silent, and even the loudest fans in arenas are left speechless. Because Jimmy Uso didn't just pass away, he left behind a legacy that feels incomplete, cut short, and ripped away from those who loved him most. Think about it. 1 minute, Jimmy was alive, laughing, training, calling his family, planning the next chapter of his career. And the next, his car collides, chaos erupts, and in an instant, one of the most beloved superstars in WWE history is gone forever. The reports are brutal to read. Witnesses describe the scene of the crash as chilling, something out of a nightmare. Emergency crews rushed to the wreck, but nothing they could do could reverse the cruel fate. And as the world now knows, Jimmy Uso's life was tragically cut short. And now, Jey Uso is standing in the ruins of this tragedy. Alone. Imagine being Jey for just 1 second. Imagine getting the call. Imagine hearing those words that your twin brother, the man who was by your side from the day you were born, was gone forever. How do you even process that? How do you breathe after that? How do you walk into an arena, see the fans, and hear them chant your name when the other half of you is no longer there to share that moment? This isn't just a loss for Jey Uso. This is a loss for an entire generation of wrestling fans who grew up with the Usos. From the colorful face paint days, to the dominant bloodline storyline that redefined modern wrestling, Jimmy and Jey were inseparable. They weren't just brothers, they were warriors together, storytellers together, and champions together. They carried tag team wrestling on their backs for over a decade. And now, half of that is gone. Fans online are flooding social media with tributes, heartbreak, and outrage. WWE has been forced to rewrite entire plans. Superstars who once battled against Jimmy are now speaking out with tears in their eyes, unable to believe what just happened. Roman Reigns. Silent. Completely silent. Paul Heyman. Shaken to his core. Even rivals like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have put aside their differences to honor Jimmy's memory. But nobody, and I mean nobody, is hurting more than Jey Uso. The look in his eyes when he stepped into the arena for the first time without his brother told the story of a man who's lost not just a partner, but a piece of his soul. His walk was heavy, his shoulders weighed down with grief, and every single fan in that building knew they weren't watching a character, they were watching a man torn apart by reality. And here's the part that's making fans furious. Jimmy's death wasn't some freak accident of fate. People are questioning if it could have been prevented. They're asking tough questions. Was he too exhausted from the brutal WWE schedule? Did he leave the arena too late? Was someone else responsible on that road? The silence surrounding the details has left fans enraged, demanding answers and demanding justice. And through it all, Jey Uso is the one who has to carry this unbearable weight. He has to face the cameras, he has to face the fans, and he has to somehow continue wrestling when the very reason he loved it is no longer alive. This is more than just news. It's heartbreak, it's anger, and it's tragedy at the very core of the wrestling world. Because Jimmy Uso wasn't just a superstar. He wasn't just a performer. He was a father, a son, a husband, a brother, and now he's a name that fans will forever speak with tears in their eyes. The arena felt different that night. The crowd wasn't chanting. They weren't booing. They weren't even screaming in excitement. They were whispering, mourning, because everyone in attendance knew that when Jey Uso walked through that curtain, it wouldn't be the same. It would never be the same again. The music hit, the familiar USO theme. But when Jey walked out, he didn't dance. He didn't smile. He didn't throw up the ones. His eyes were red, his face heavy with pain, his body moving like a man carrying a 1,000-pound weight on his back. The fans stood up. Not in excitement, but in respect. They gave him a standing ovation, clapping through tears, chanting, "Jimmy. Jimmy. Jimmy," over and over again until the sound shook the walls of the arena. And Jey, he broke. The tough, fearless, battle-tested USO couldn't hold it in. Right there on the ramp, he dropped to his knees, covering his face, sobbing uncontrollably as the world watched. This wasn't a character. This wasn't a storyline. This was a man destroyed. This was a brother crying for his twin. Inside the ring, a single spotlight shined down. In the center was a black cloth draped over the ropes, and in the middle of the ring was a large framed photo of Jimmy Uso, smiling in his prime, championship belts draped over his shoulders. Flowers surrounded the picture. The entire locker room stood on the stage. Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, the Bloodline, even those who weren't part of the family. The entire WWE roster, heels and faces alike, stood united in silence. Because for once, rivalries didn't matter. Storylines didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was honoring Jimmy Uso. When Jay finally stepped inside the ring, the crowd grew quiet. You could hear the sound of his breathing, the pain in every exhale. He grabbed the microphone, but for a long moment, he couldn't speak. His hands were shaking. His lips trembled. His eyes never left that photo of Jimmy. And then, with a voice cracked and broken, Jay whispered into the mic. "That's my brother. That's my day one, and now he's gone." The arena erupted in chants of, "We love you, Jimmy." And Jay could barely keep standing. His voice rose, filled with grief and rage. "We were supposed to do this together, Use. We were supposed to retire together, raise our kids together, tell the stories of our legacy together. They took you from me, man. They took you from me." The sound of Jay's pain echoed in every heart. Fans in the crowd wept openly. WWE superstars wiped tears from their faces. And in that moment, the entire world realized, this wasn't just the end of the Usos. This was the beginning of Jay Uso's life without his brother. But the part that hurts most. The questions that will never be answered. Could Jimmy's death have been prevented? Did someone fail him that night? Why was he even on that road at that time? Every fan is searching for answers, but Jay is the one left haunted by the silence. Reports suggest Jay hasn't been able to sleep. He hasn't been able to eat. He spends hours alone, replaying old matches of the Usos, listening to their entrance music on repeat, watching their WrestleMania victories, their bloodline dominance, their battles with the New Day and the Shield. Over and over, torturing himself with memories he can never recreate. And the fans. They're demanding that WWE do more than just give a 10-bell salute. They're demanding action. They're demanding a tribute pay-per-view, a permanent Hall of Fame induction, and an entire legacy carved into the very DNA of WWE for Jimmy Uso. Because anything less would be an insult. What makes this even more painful is how sudden it all was. Jimmy was healthy. He was active. He was still in his prime, competing at the top level of WWE. He wasn't a legend from the past. He was here, now, part of the story. And then, in a blink, he was gone. The thought of Jay standing alone on that grand stage, without his brother to tag in, without his brother to lean on, has left the wrestling community in tears. Because the Usos weren't just wrestlers. They were hope for every fan who believed in family. They were proof that dreams could be chased side by side, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder. Now, Jay is forced to do the impossible, to live out that dream alone. And here's what cuts the deepest. Jimmy's final WWE match. Nobody knew it at the time, but it was his last. Fans are now replaying that footage, every single detail, every smile, every move, analyzing it with heartbreak, knowing they'll never see it again. That match has become sacred. A final chapter in a story that ended too soon. There's an emptiness in the WWE universe right now, one that can't be filled no matter how many tributes or chants echo through the arenas. Because Jimmy Uso wasn't just another superstar. He was family to everyone who watched him. The Usos grew up in front of us. From the colorful paint days to the street-fighting bloodline era, fans were invested every step of the way. Jimmy's laugh, his charisma, his swagger, it all made him more than just a wrestler. He felt like someone we all knew personally. And losing him feels like losing a part of ourselves. The ripple effect of Jimmy's passing has spread across the entire wrestling world. Social media exploded with messages of grief. Former superstars, people who haven't been in WWE for years, returned just to share their heartbreak. Hall of Famers like Rikishi, Jimmy and Jay's own father, broke down in tears on camera. Legends like The Rock and John Cena wrote tributes that left fans in tears, reminding everyone of just how deeply Jimmy touched lives both inside and outside the ring. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to the pain Jay Uso is facing. Imagine the cruel irony. For years, Jay's entire identity in WWE was tied to being the other USO. The shadow of his twin brother. The man always linked, never separate. And just when Jay started carving his own path, just when he was stepping into the spotlight as main event Jay, fate ripped Jimmy away from him. Now, Jay isn't the other USO. He's the only USO. And that thought is destroying him. In the locker room, reports say Jay has isolated himself. He's spoken only in whispers. He hasn't smiled. He hasn't cracked a joke. His friends say he spends most of his time staring at his phone, scrolling through pictures and videos of him and Jimmy, unable to let go. He wears Jimmy's chain around his neck everywhere he goes. He clutches it when he prays. And when he wrestles, he tucks it inside his gear so Jimmy is always with him. Fans are noticing that every move Jay makes in the ring now carries a new weight. Every superkick, every splash, every taunt, it's all different. It's all filled with grief, rage, and desperation. It's not just about winning anymore. It's about surviving without his brother. And yet, even in the middle of his grief, the pressure on Jay is unbearable. WWE executives are looking at him differently. Some see him as the tragic hero, the man who must carry the USO legacy alone. Others wonder if he can even handle it. But here's the thing, fans aren't just watching a storyline anymore. They're watching real pain play out in front of them. Every time Jay steps into the ring, it's like reopening the wound. The moment that shook everyone came during a SmackDown tribute. Jay stood in the ring, tears streaming down his face, as the crowd chanted, "We want Jimmy." Jay whispered into the mic, "So do I." Those 3 words broke everyone. Fans cried. Superstars backstage cried. It was raw. It was honest. And it was the kind of heartbreak you can't script. And then came the anger. Because now, people aren't just mourning Jimmy's death, they're demanding answers. Why was Jimmy on that road that night? Why wasn't he protected? Why did WWE push him to the limit with constant travel, constant pressure, constant exhaustion? Fans are furious at the silence, furious at the vague reports, furious that they may never know the full truth of what happened. What we do know is that Jimmy's car collided violently, his vehicle crumpling on impact. Witnesses say the crash was so severe, they knew instantly it was life-threatening. Emergency crews tried everything, but it was too late. Jimmy Uso was gone before help could reach him. The thought of his last moments has haunted fans, and haunted Jay. Because all Jay can think is, what if? What if he had called Jimmy earlier that day? What if he had been there? What if he had convinced Jimmy to take another route? What if he could have somehow stopped this? That guilt, that endless loop of what ifs, is a prison Jay can't escape. And every fan watching can feel it. The silence backstage in WWE is unlike anything anyone has ever experienced. Superstars who are normally loud, playful, cracking jokes, or hyping up their matches now sit in complete stillness. Nobody knows what to say. Because what can you say when the life of Jimmy Uso, the heartbeat of the locker room, the brother, the friend, the soul of tag team wrestling, has been taken so suddenly? Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the face of WWE, reportedly locked himself in his private dressing room for hours the night the news broke. Roman isn't just Jimmy's cousin. He's family. They grew up together. They celebrated together. They dominated WWE together. And sources say Roman broke down in a way that nobody has ever seen before. When he finally emerged, his eyes were red, his face drained, his body language broken. The tribal chief, the most powerful character in wrestling, looked powerless. Because in the face of death, titles, power, and dominance mean nothing. Solo Sikoa, Jimmy and Jay's younger brother, has been visibly shaken. Fans noticed it immediately when he walked down to the ring for a tribute match. Normally calm, intimidating, and cold, Solo couldn't even lift his head. He wore a shirt with Jimmy's face on it, and the crowd erupted with chants of, "Day one-ish." But Solo didn't smile. He didn't pose. He simply stood there, staring into the distance, like a man lost in a storm. And then there's Rikishi. Their father. Their mentor. Their hero. The man who raised them not only as wrestlers, but as men. Rikishi's public statement shook fans to the core. No father should have to bury his son. My heart is broken, but I know Jimmy's spirit will live forever through Jay, through Solo, through our family, and through every fan who loved him. Those words have been replayed across every wrestling outlet, every social media feed, leaving fans in tears. Because Rikishi's pain is a reminder that beyond the bright lights and storylines, these superstars are real people with families who now face the most brutal reality of all. And yet, in the middle of this storm, the WWE universe has united like never before. Tribute videos have flooded YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. Fans are holding candlelight vigils outside arenas. Entire sections of the crowd hold up signs with Jimmy's name. At one SmackDown taping, an entire arena lit up with cell phone flashlights as Jey Uso stood alone in the ring. It wasn't just a show, it was a funeral service, a global mourning session for a man who gave his life to this business. But here's the part that's leaving fans outraged. Jimmy's death is already being whispered about as a tragedy WWE will use in storylines. And that idea has set social media on fire. Fans are furious, calling it disrespectful, demanding that WWE honor Jimmy with dignity and not twist his death into cheap entertainment. Because this isn't a storyline. This is real. This is a man gone forever. Jey Uso himself addressed this during one of the most emotional promos of his life. Standing in the ring, tears flowing, Jey shouted into the mic. "Don't you dare treat my brother like he's just another angle. This ain't no storyline. This ain't no character. That's my blood. That's my twin. That's my everything. Jimmy Uso is not a gimmick. He's a man, and he's gone." The arena exploded. Fans chanted Jimmy's name louder than ever before, and Jey collapsed in the ring, overwhelmed. Superstars rushed down to console him, breaking character completely. The barrier between reality and wrestling shattered. And in that moment, WWE wasn't about entertainment anymore. It was about grief. And the questions keep piling up. Why did this happen now? Why did it have to be Jimmy? Why was fate so cruel to rip apart a bond that seemed unbreakable? Fans are asking why the strongest brotherhood in wrestling had to be destroyed in the blink of an eye. And the truth? Nobody has an answer. The locker room whispers say Jey is considering stepping away from wrestling entirely. The grief may be too much. Without Jimmy, the ring feels empty. The Usos' dream feels incomplete. The tag ropes that once symbolized family now symbolize loss. Fans are terrified that this tragedy may also mean the end of Jey Uso's career. And yet, others believe this could ignite a new fire in Jey, a mission to carry Jimmy's memory forward, to honor him by reaching new heights. The crowd wants him to keep fighting. They want him to raise the ones, not just for himself, but for Jimmy. They want him to become a world champion, not just for his career, but as a symbol of his brother's eternal presence. But the decision is Jey's alone. And right now, the man is torn apart, lost in grief, standing at a crossroads no one should ever have to face.